Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Rufino's on Highland Road, Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments, is live. I'm Charles Hannegriff. Former Tiger Richard Dixon, as we get you ready. It's one of those weekends, man, where everything is lined up for a really perfect day at Tiger Stadium. Great weather, night game, opponent coming in with a top 10 ranking, and, well, in case you didn't know, this is a little bit of a rivalry. So, Rich, I love talking to you during Ole Miss week and, well, when they have it, Mississippi State week, but not this year, because you grew up around these programs. Your dad went to Mississippi State. Your grandfather went to Ole Miss. Your sister went to Ole Miss. You grew up in Mississippi. This one means something to you, and you know just what the rivalry means in that state. And then you came here and played.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I grew up in it. Ed Orgeron recruited me to Ole Miss. Sly Croom recruited me to Mississippi State. Grew up going to Mississippi State games. I was raised to hate Ole Miss with my dad, and then, of course, my sister goes there. And
just good upbringing, man.
It was
good parenting there.
Ole Miss is a little bit team that I dislike a little bit more because I was telling you before the show, like, when I came to LSU, like, I had promised myself, and I'd had so much trash talk to me when I was leaving the state that I would never lose those schools. Like, I promise you, I'm leaving because y'all suck. I can't go 2-3 games a year. So the one time Ole Miss beat me, I lost 1 out of the 8 games against them. It sways my hate to Ole Miss a little bit more.
Why?
I'm trying to think of, be it polite. And
right. Censor yourself just a little bit,
I can remember being in the end zone, stretching, and, Ole Miss is a lot of Delta money, the North Mississippi, the guys who thought that they were better than a lot of people. And I just remember stretching and the whole student section cheering Coast Trash. Like, I'm nothing but Coast Trash. Coastal Mississippi people were just the trashy people. So it was always Coast Trash. We didn't want you up here, Coast Trash.
Wow. Okay. See, now that one's lost on me. I get the Ole Miss, old money, if you will, against Mississippi State. I didn't quite get the southern split Mississippi. You live that.
If you're South I-10, you're nothing but trash, and that's how they always treated you.
Man,
so,
South I-10 in Mississippi
is the only good part of Mississippi.
It's like 50 feet. Yeah. I mean, to the Gulf.
It's the only tourism part of the state, unless you like hunting. But I just remember all the times, the 2 times I played in Oxford, every time I walk out the tunnel, it's like they didn't forget I left Mississippi to go to LSU. And it was like, you Dixon, you ain't nothing but Coast Trash, just they're running my mouth the whole time. So I always just wanted to beat up on them.
That's a really good answer, man. That's a really good answer. Chock with details. That's a really good answer. This rivalry has had so many different layers to it. When we were, you're reading about this game, you see that this is the first time they meet as top 10 teams since the 60s. If you use the coaches poll, I know LSU's outside the top 10, the AP poll. And then you get into the whole Archie Manning, Archie who, and that layer of it. And then, the 80s and 90s not as much, although the one, if you ask me one Ole Miss game that I remember from the 80s and 90s, it'll be the one in 97, because LSU had beaten Florida the week before. It was the first time LSU had ever beaten the number 1 team in the country. And I remember this press conference, big as day. Jerry DiNardo got up the next week and he says, every time this program has had a big win, they've fallen on their face the next week. And he went through them. He says, week after Billy Cannon's run, lost. Week after they beat the Bear in 82, lost. And he says, and if we don't, and he had 3 or 4 more, but you get the picture. He says, if we don't come out focused, then Ole Miss, who was not very good that year, as I remember, is going to beat us. They're nowhere near as good as the Florida team we just beat, but they will beat us. And nobody listened. They're like, well, they beat Florida. Everything's great. It was a really good LSU team. That LSU team won 10 games that year, but they lost.
Yeah.
And it was there was a tight end named Rufus French who caught, it seemed like, 25 balls that day, and he played in the league for a while. I think he was in Seattle, but and DiNardo came to the post game. I remember the post game too. He's like, "I told you." I tried to tell the team, I told a fan, I told anybody who would listen, and nobody did. That game I remember. And now, Lane Kiffin adds another layer to this. He's built this program into something that is more dynamic and more consistent than just about anybody since Johnny Vaught. And they have been pointing to this season. I'm telling the audiences, I know you have lived it. So when this summer, this lead up to the season in Mississippi, because I know you still got people all over there, they've been pointing to this one for a while. This is team they've been waiting for, which is why the Kentucky loss was such a gut punch.
Yeah, I mean it's been their season record. I mean, when I think was it last year, the year before, they were undefeated going into the LSU game. LSU beats them
2 years ago, yeah,
and then they drop off, lose 4 more games. I mean, LSU's ruined their season before, and they love nothing more than ruin an LSU chance. So it's always, I've always looked at them as they were not in contention, but they wanted to play their hardest to knock us out.
Yeah, I think that's true. They've so seldom been in this position to be a top 10 team, a favorite on the road in Tiger Stadium. We were going through, when's the last time they were a favorite here? It's been very few times. I think the Deuce McAllister team might have been, but when he was a sophomore. But it's few and far between. So, how has Ole Miss embrace the role of being a favorite, being the hunted? Forget the first 4 games. Who cares? They beat up on 4 weaklings. But they lose to Kentucky, and then they follow it up with a win against a decent South Carolina team.
I think they're still learning. I mean, you always hear about you have to learn how to win. You got to get used to winning because you're going to go against tough games to where things don't go your way, and it's easy to quit when you're getting your butts whooped. And so that's something that, I think we still have the advantage on. I love Lane Kiffin and what he does, but he ain't learned how to win the big one yet. And this is a team that has to learn how to win the big one. They've had great starts to the season since he's been there, and they've gotten close, but they haven't finished the season yet. And that's what what we still got to figure out. They have not been able to close out a season yet.
And since I brought up that 97 team, they're in that position that LSU was kind of in at that point. LSU had come out of a long stretch of losing seasons, and DiNardo put them right there. 96 and 97, they're a tiebreaker away from going to Atlanta, but they couldn't beat Alabama or Auburn in those years where they had to. Ole Miss ain't made it to Atlanta yet. Now, the schedule is different. They don't play Alabama this year, but it's going to be games like this. It'll be the game against Texas, the game against Georgia. These are the games that you have to win if you're going to be – the game against Georgia and the game against Oklahoma. Forgive me, I keep getting the damn schedules
it's blowing my mind
mixed up. I had it by rote for a while, and I got to look every time. Georgia and Oklahoma. And LSU, those are the games they have to win if they want to get to Atlanta. And it's always tougher to make that next step. One more DiNardoism, and then I promise not to mention him again the rest of the show. But he said, look, when we get here, it's easier to get from 4-7 to 7-4, or from 4-7 to even 9-2. He said the tough thing is going from 9 wins to 11 wins. It was an 11-win season when it was an 11-game season. That the last 2, those are the ones. It's a lot hard. You can get it organized and you can get everybody right there, and that's what Lane Kiffin's done. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's gotten it organized. He's up the recruiting. He has established enough budget to be a real player in NIL. It's the next step. It's going from that 10 wins to 12. That's the hard part, and these are the games you have to win if you're going to do that.
And that's why the Kentucky loss is so disappointing for them, because they weren't looking at Kentucky. They were saying, we got to beat LSU, like you said, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Those are the 3 games they were looking at. Can we win 2 of those 3 and we'll put ourselves in a good spot? And now they're like, they got to win them all. And that's how they're feeling right now. That's why that Kentucky loss to them is –
It's
tough.
It was a real gut punch, and they can also look at that game as one that they let get away. That the penalties in the first half that extended the Kentucky drives were their own doing, not plays that Kentucky made. And then at the end, the one big play, you get a 4th and 7. You're one play away from winning the game. They stop Kentucky there. They're gonna run the clock out, or they're gonna score again, and they're gonna win the game. And they allow this 63-yard pass to essentially give Kentucky life and win the game. I want to talk one more thing about Spot, and then we're going to get into personnel starting in the next segment. This is 7 straight games for Ole Miss, and
spot.
LSU's off, and 2 straight road games, and LSU's coming off of a bye. Give me the players' perspective.
The players feel, in your mind you're going to trick yourself. With Ole Miss, I mean, you trick yourself every day to feel good. I mean, because your body's not feeling good. And when you go on, 3 back-to-back SEC games, 2 road games, this is a worn-down team. I don't know if the receiver's going to play. I know he's a little nicked up. They got, Walter Nolan, D-tackle's a little bit nicked up. I mean, this team, you're going to play them for LSU at the best spot they could play them in, because I think right now that Ole Miss is probably a little bit I'd give them the nod just a little bit better than LSU right now, but LSU is playing them in a more advantageous spot because it's tough to come off the road twice in 2 back-to-back weeks, now on 3 back-to-back SEC games. LSU's feeling fresh, and these guys are tricking themselves into feeling good.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest reason that this number is what it is. If this game were in Oxford and LSU were playing 7 games in a row and Ole Miss was coming off a bye, this spread might be double digits or close to it, but because of the spot, it's 3.5, and I think that plays in big. Back in the 11-game schedules, coaches used to say, "Don't get me to 7 or 8 in a row.
Yeah.
Make sure my bye is somewhere that I can bust up." 7 or 8 in a row it's a little bit much. You start to wear down. Or at the very least, if I got to play 7 or 8 in a row, give me a layup at the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's hard to schedule a non-conference game in October to do that.
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
you're going to end up with an SEC game at that point.
Well, from the opposite standpoint, that's why I look at the A&M game. That's going to be a tough game for LSU, being the second back-to-back road SEC games. That's a similar spot to where they got to grind it out.
Yeah, we're here at Rufino's. Restaurant opens at 11 o'clock. We invite you to come on by. It's going to be a great weekend here in Baton Rouge. We got a terrific crowd that's expected out here tonight, but we invite you to come out for lunch and spend a little time with us. Get ready for the weekend with Richard Dixon. Max Gotro is here as well. Jordan Kitchen's back in the studio. This is Live at Lunch, Football Friday edition, presented by Tex Morris, Edward Jones Investments, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And we return here at Rufino's, brought to you by Home Bank, Louisiana-based since 1908. Business and personal banking solutions for you with somebody local. Terrific CD rates going on right now, both short and long term, with low minimum balances that you can take advantage of to get a really nice return on your money. Local bankers here in Baton Rouge on Corporate Boulevard, Sherwood Forest, Longform Village, and Blue Bonnet. Also, Home Bank locations in Acadiana, New Orleans, and North Shore, Natchez, and Houston. Home24bank.com is the website. Home Bank, member FDIC. You think of Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin, you think of offense, and so you think of the quarterback. You've seen enough of Jackson Dart. I'll be honest with you. I thought that Jackson Dart would be long since gone from Ole Miss by now.
Me too.
Especially when Spencer Sanders came in from Oklahoma State. When Walker Howard transferred in there, you kind of thought, well, is Jackson Dart going to stick around? Not only stick around, he's held his starting job. He's positioned himself for a big, final year there and, a chance at the next level. You watched him progress. Where is he now in his development?
He's just making better decisions. Early on in his career, he came in cocky, thinking he was the best guy, and probably tried to make balls fit where they couldn't go. Tried to show off arm strength when it was a bad decision. I think Lane Kiffin's just done a great job of maturing him, making him take what's given to him, use his legs a little bit more. He makes better decisions now. He doesn't put the team at as much risk.
I agree, and I think it's worth noting that when he was recruited, he's from Utah. He was recruited by all the Pac-12 schools. He ended up at USC, but he was also offered by multiple Ivy League schools. Okay, he was at Yale and Penn. We're talking about a bright kid here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got good enough grades to get into those schools, now you're starting to see the maturity go with the intelligence, and like you said, he's making better decisions. They're still going fast, but maybe not quite as fast. They're still in the top 10 in the nation in plays per game. But, and this is hard because they've had the lead most of the year, the tempo at which they're going.
I don't think that they have the running back that they've had the previous 2 years, which allowed them to play off of that a little bit more. So I think they've had to slow down because they're Jackson Dart is running the ball more, throwing the ball more, and they don't have that running back. Where do you go?
Parrish.
Where do you end up going? I know they had a guy transfer out to another school. I can't remember.
Quinshon Judkins went to Ohio State.
Okay.
Parrish is the lead back.
When Judkins left, that was the guy that kept him playing really fast because he could either throw the ball, they'd make a run, they kept in rhythm. I just think they've had to slow back down a little bit this year just because they don't have that elite running back.
I also think he's slowed down a little bit because he's had the lead, like I said, the entire year except for the Kentucky game. So 5 out of 6 games they've played exclusively with the lead. The other thing is, and this is typical Lane Kiffin, and I actually kind of admire it, for the last couple of years they've had people fake injuries on them. Guys just blatantly just fall down like Fred Sanford in his living room, like, oh, my God. And then 2 plays later they're back in the game, and it's so obvious. He's done that now, and I don't think he's doing it because he wants to slow the game down. I think he's doing it to prove a point.
Yeah.
He's basically daring.
You have to make it make sense. I just wanted to hate on him for it, but now it does make sense.
I think he's doing it to prove a point. I think he's doing it I think he wants the league to call him and say, why are you doing this? And he's got reams of film of teams doing this the last couple of years going, you didn't call it on them, so I'm going to do it just to show you how ridiculous this is. And I didn't know that. Brian Kelly said this earlier in the week. I didn't know. The league has a policy. They have a sportsmanship policy that covers this. I didn't realize it covered this.
Who wants to be the guy to throw a flag and say he's not really hurt?
I don't think that's not on the table. I don't think that the officials should have to call this. It's something that usually happens behind the play, behind the huddle. It's not something that the officials are supposed to be looking at, nor do I think that they should have to make a decision at that point about whether a kid is actually hurt or not. Yeah. But the league can look at this on Monday. They got the eye in the sky. They can look at this on Monday. And if they can look at these things and be able to find teams on Monday for rushing the field, then they can look at these films and find these teams on Monday. I don't want the players to have to take the brunt of this.
When it's obvious, it's obvious.
Yeah, when it's obvious, it's obvious. And so let's put some teeth into this thing. The first time this happens, it's a $25,000 fine for the coach, and it's a $50,000 fine for the school, okay, which is no money.
Yeah.
It doubles the second time. It doubles the third time. If you go to a fourth time, we're going to suspend the coach for 1 day. And you'll put an end to this crap.
Yeah.
I would like to see that. I think that that's what Kiffin is doing. I don't think he wants to slow games down. I think he wants to prove a point to the league that this is ridiculous, where we're watching these kids just absolutely – not only are they falling down, they're being instructed to fall down by the quarterback.
The one that,
fall down.
I was about to say, you're talking about the same one I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Was it Kentucky game? I think
yes.
It was.
Yeah.
They're at the line of scrimmage looking at each other. The center looks at Dart. They look at the running back like, go down.
Yeah.
And he just goes, just falls over to the side. I mean – but to me, if there is a code of conduct in play with the SEC, that's an obvious one. Yeah. Were they phone called about that? Did someone call them in about that, and we just don't know what the punishment is yet? I mean, so I don't know if they're really enforcing that sportsmanship code of conduct.
I'm not a big fine guy.
No.
Okay, I don't think that the school should be fined for people rushing the field, because what are you going to do? There's 15,000 students coming out of the student section. What exactly are even 50 security people supposed to do? This, I would be for it, because again, I don't want them having to regulate this with the officials. All right. Trey Harris is the number one receiver in the country. He's got 885 yards, which comes out to 147 per game. That's without playing in the second half of the South Carolina game. They had a big lead. They didn't need him. He is, as I understand it, there's a much better chance. He's questionable.
Yeah.
There's a better chance that he's going to play
These are
than
the games
not.
that questionable guys play in.
Yeah. And so we have to see, is he compromised, okay? He's going to gut it out. So you tell me about playing with lower extremity injuries as a receiver.
You got to get out there and play clean because you're going to feel good at the beginning. You're going to have some medicine in you. You're going to be feeling good. But the second it gets hit again or you get dinged up again, it's hard to reel that back in. All the pain starts to flow.
Talk to me about playing with medicine. I love your term, medicine.
It's medicine that makes your pain go away.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've had fingers
For how
that
long?
were broken for a half, and you get some more medicine at halftime, and you just keep on going. But, we've played with broken bones and, torn ligaments. There's certain things you can play with. You can medicate to play through, and there's things you can't. There's things that you're not going to damage it any worse. You already know you're having surgery at the end of the season. Play through it. But, I mean, it works. I mean, there's multiple times that in 2008 when I broke my finger and it was snapped in half, we had a cast made to form it around a football. So I could sit there and I could block. I was compromising blocking a little bit, but my hand was molded to the shape of a football, so I could still catch. But there was 2 or 3 times a game where I'd get hit or I'd get blocked and my finger would be pointing out the other way. I'd have to tap out, and at that point, medicine's gone. Once you re-injure it, it starts to hurt again, and you wait till halftime. We go reset everything, put the cast back on, numb it up, and play till it hurt again.
If it's leg, is it hard to trust it as a receiver to make cuts?
Yes, leg's way different. I mean, when everything you do is putting a lot of torque on your lower extremities when you're cutting, moving, and trying to accelerate. So as long as you're feeling good, you got to go out there, and you'll see them during warm-ups. All these guys who have lower extremity pains, they're going to make full-speed cuts in the pregame just to get their confidence up, so that way when they start the game, they're confident in what they're able to do.
What's it like when the stuff wears off, like the next day?
Oh, it's you're in the training room for a couple of days.
It doesn't sound like any fun.
When I was playing, you were in the training room by 9:30 Sunday morning.
Yeah, Harris to me is a huge facet of this game. If he's 100%, one of the things that Kiffin does better than anybody is he exploits mismatches in the secondary. He creates confusion. This has been a red letter topic for Brian Kelly. Is we are going to shorten our rotations. We don't know what that means until tomorrow, but we are going to communicate better back there. They're going to have Zy Alexander back, which is, in my opinion, their best man cover guy. But they have to communicate back there. We've all seen the plays when they do the wide shots, and before the quarterback, he goes back to throw the ball, and Kiffin throws his hands in the air because he knows he's got him. Mm-hmm. You got to avoid that play. And LSU's given up way too many big plays this year. And if Harris is there, he's the big play guy. He's averaging over 17 yards a catch with all those catches that he's got.
They just got to finish because I agree with you that they've given up way too many big plays, but it's not from the same aspect of when they gave up big plays last year. Last year, there were guys just running wide open, uncovered. No one knew where they were. This year, it's guys that are playing maybe a step behind. They're not just completely blowing coverages. You're playing with young guys who, me and Flynn were talking about it the other day. They're in position just about every time, and it's pretty impressive when we talk about it. I mean, they're in the hip pocket. They got to take the next step and be confident to turn their head, and that's where the biggest problem is right now. They're playing the man, not the ball.
They know the assignments. They just don't physically make the play.
Yeah, they just haven't gotten to that next thing to where, they're so locked in on the guy, they're not turning their head. They got to start to feel a guy with your body and everything and start playing the ball with their eyes.
That's a really good answer to why are they better on defense this year than last, because if you look at it, the numbers are a little bit better, but they're still not where they want them to be. Well, okay, last year they weren't in position. Last year, the techniques were bad. The Advocate did a piece with Pete Jenkins about saying, look, they're not good, but they're better. Because when he came in last year, he had to coach him on techniques like, hey, look closer to the line of scrimmage here. When I'm talking about
the ball. Make them back you up.
Not upper level. Say, just move a little closer.
Yeah.
Move.
You're always taught playing the line, cheat the ball. They'll give you a warning. They're going to warn you, and once they warn you, you kind of find a sweet spot where you need to be.
They have been better up front.
No, they've been good up front. The D tackle, I've talked about it a million times. Bro is coming. Bro is going to be a hell of a player for us. I think Woodland is going to be a player for us. Stamps. They just got to make that next move to where they're comfortable in their position, not play the ball with their eyes.
We're brought to you by Louisiana Health and Injury Centers, helping you deal with pain. Dr. Michael Goss, we're talking about dealing with pain. We have different kind of pains when we get to this age, so let them help you out to get you, those back injuries, those neck injuries, those things that, man, you're not able to move around quite as good as you want. Maybe you're not getting a good night's sleep. Let them get you into a program that's going to target those problem areas. Some exercise and stretching programs sometimes will do a lot of good for you, but if you need a dry needle or electric nerve stimulation, cryo, ultrasound therapy, any of the many techniques that they've got to get you to feeling better. Airline Highway, Plank Road, Jefferson Highway near Drusilla, Dr. Michael Goff, Louisiana Health and Injury Centers. We'll take a break here back at Ruffino's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I'm flipping through these national stats. We do this every week. We're going through. Here's a stat where Ole Miss is number one in the country. Well, it's got to be an offensive stat. No, it's rush defense. Rush defense. I understand. I know who they played in the non-conference. I get that. But this is 6 games. This is half the season. I mean, you got to play somebody, right? And they lead the nation, giving up 63 yards a game. If LSU rushes for 63 yards tomorrow night, it's not going to go well for the Tigers. So let's talk about a couple things, Rich. First, when you look at Ole Miss's defense up front, how much better are they? Because Nick Saban was saying this all the way back in the summer. They're better up front on both sides of the ball than they have been. So when you see them, what do you see through 6 games?
I see they got 2 defensive ends that are rushing really well. They're getting off the ball. They're a lot bigger in stature. You got Walter Nolan, who's a guy that everybody wanted when he was leaving A&M. He's playing. I think they supplemented so well in the portal where they went out and got what they needed. They got good defensive bodies on the line and guys that play aggressively.
Caden Durham is going to play in this game. It was listed as probable yesterday. You went back and looked real close at the play that he got hit on that has him with a couple of toes that are out of joint.
Yeah, it was I want to say it was his first rushing touchdown, second touchdown, when he falls down in the end zone and his legs are straightened down and the lineman just kind of falls on top of his foot and jams it straight into the ground. You can kind of see his face grimacing. But he came back out and tried to play a couple more plays. We had a big lead, and they were like, let's call it a day. But, I was talking with some buddies. That's something in a big game he can play through. But you just didn't need to aggravate it anymore with the bye week coming when it happened.
Talk about toe injuries. You always worry about the push off. That would be my when you
don't want to hurt your big toe. The big toe is
the
most important one. I mean, that's where you're putting 80% of your weight on. That's what you're cutting off of. That's what you're jumping off of. The big toes can cause a problem, but when you get to your toes, like in the middle,
this is not his big toe, right?
No, it's the middle toes.
Middle toes. Okay.
So I feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, it hurts, but everybody hurts at this point. You play through pain, but as long as it wasn't his big toe, I feel pretty good about where he's at.
I don't ever want to hear anybody say that we don't break everything down. I mean, we're here talking about a guy's 2 middle toes, all right? Sergeant Holker with the big toe going to take it. Never mind. I think Durham is such a key to the rest of this season for LSU because he is the one guy that they've got out there that can hit the home run. You talked a number of times about LSU's got a bunch of nice receivers, but outside of Aaron Anderson, who's a little shorter, they don't have that blazer. I mean, Chris Hilton's, perpetually. I don't know that he's going to be back. So, and then the other running backs, they're good backs, but this is the guy that can take it the distance. And he went into the starting lineup against South Alabama, and it took 2 plays to have LSU up 14-0, basically, because he's a game changer.
He's explosive. I mean, he's a guy that I'd love to see him line him up on the wide and run a go route because he's one of the guys that can beat you with speed, get deep, and you don't have to throw a perfect ball. A guy, when you have guys with speed like that, you can throw it up and let a guy go run underneath it. Right now, if we're winning by a step or 2, and it's just got to be a perfectly thrown ball.
And again, the pass against stats for Ole Miss, they're skewed. Their pass defense is down in the 50s, but again, they've been ahead the whole year. The idea
they
that
force people to throw the ball.
Yeah, I mean, how can I take these stats seriously if 90% of the year they've been ahead, and for 2/3 of the season they've been ahead. No, more than 2/3 of the season. They've been ahead by a lot. I went back and looked at the South Carolina game a little bit closer in the second half. South Carolina kept at it. You might question the sanity of that. Sellers was so rattled and off of his game throwing the football that they kept running it. They ran the ball for 140 yards against Ole Miss. Now, it was useless. They were behind 3 touchdowns, but they kept hammering away at it. And I think LSU cannot get away from the running game. It's easy to get caught up in the tempo of this thing, because I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to have anybody falling. He ain't making a point to the league tomorrow night.
Yeah.
He's not having anybody fall down. They're going to go tempo. And LSU found a little something with the tempo package against South Alabama. I know what Brian Kelly said, but it's easy to get caught up in a tempo game with these guys.
It is, but the one thing that we've done well is we've stayed tempo when we're in rhythm. When anything knocks us out of rhythm, we reset. And that's what we got to – you got to stay that in your mind. When you get knocked out of rhythm, reset, get everybody back to a huddle, and get another game plan. Because when tempo works best is when you finally fooled somebody. You got a personnel in there, and you got a mismatch where you're going to stay in tempo because you don't want them to substitute. You finally tricked them into a play to where you got advantages. But you got to hit on all cylinders before you can keep that tempo rolling.
We've been doing film study on the podcast, and we'll be back next week. We had a little scheduling problem this week, but we were off. So the podcast will be back, Handicast on YouTube. Please go and take a look at it. I think you'll like some of the stuff that Richard's able to describe to you. Would you say that they are run blocking better? I understand the opponents from game 1 to game 5.
No doubt. They're run blocking better. They've kind of found a scheme that works. We've put a lot of counter in. We got big athletic offensive linemen. We're getting the linemen moving. And when we do well, like in the last couple of games, when we got in tempo, we got a mismatch. We got the defense we want that we can kind of run our run game off of. It's coming, but a lot of that I think helps with Durham. He's a guy that made a guy miss. We talked about earlier. There's gonna be a one-on-one situation, and you got to win it. And Durham's been able to do it.
They've had pretty much the same 5 guys. Freshmen had to start a couple of, I think it was the Nichols game, but they pretty much had that same group together for, I would say, 80% of the relevant snaps. There don't seem to be a lot of missed assignments up front. There's some one-on-one battles that they've lost, but as a unit, they seem to be gelling fairly well.
You got 4 guys on that team, on that unit, that have played for 3 seasons. I mean, you got one new guy that's a redshirt freshman, DJ Chester, and he struggled early on. He was a guy that, he's such a big guy. I'm not used to seeing those big centers where people can get up underneath him, but he's starting to come along a little bit better. He's got the seniors around him, or the seniority around him, to keep him in check and make sure they're all on the same page.
His technique, you talked about, he's 6'6", so getting underneath him
is easier.
Pad level has been a problem.
Pad level has been a problem for him because look, you're coming from a D tackle who is going to hit you in your chin, and your whole goal is to stay face to face or get low man wins. You always say that you want to get underneath their chin. When you're 6'6" and you're playing against a 6'2" D lineman coming from a 3-point stance, that's something tough that he's got to be able to work on his pad level or trick the guy to where he can at least adjust him with his hands.
Is that something you can really do, because he's still got to snap the ball and he's still 6'6"?
You can do things with your hands that are a little bit better. He's got to be faster with his hands. Where instead of leading with your head, I always wanted to hit with my chin first. Which you don't lead with your head, but everybody leads with their head. That's the biggest way to knock somebody back and get underneath them. But what he has to do is he's got to shoot his hands a little bit faster and be stronger with his hands to get the guy off of him to where he doesn't get underneath him.
Garrett Nussmeier, I would say that this is the biggest game that he has played in. You can argue that the first game against USC there was a lot of light on him. I get it, but this is a Southeastern Conference game. This is Tiger Stadium. This is significant ramifications for the winners and losers of this game. He ready for this?
Oh, I think he's ready. He's a gamer. There's nothing he's shown me to where he would walk away from a challenge. It's something that rattles him. This is what he's been waiting for. He's been waiting 4 years for this. I mean, a big time game Saturday night at home. It's going to be a crazy crowd. I mean, I've been hearing it. I know a lot of people coming in town for this game. He's been waiting for this moment, and I think he's going to live up to it.
I do too. In the South Alabama game, and Kelly saw it right away, it was like somebody that's been, doing really, really well, and just for a second slips back into old
He's playing with
habits.
house money. He had a lot of money.
Thank you.
And he could take a little bit more. He could relax and gamble a little bit more because he was playing with house money. And then you saw what Brian Kelly did to him on the sideline. He's like, hey, wake up.
Yeah, you went back, and believe me, sometimes you play with house money, you play a little bit more. How would I know? But he snapped him back in. Take me through the careless interception, the really bad decision.
That's just, you got a big lead. There's nothing to really worry about. He's like, I'm going to show off my arm. I don't have to play careful at that point. He's trying to play, with his gunslinger mentality, take a shot. It's no big deal. You start to play loose. When you got a big lead like that and you're still in the game, I'm going to try to make a play every time. I don't have to worry about let's play a safe possession. One
of the things that's been eye-opening in the film study that you pointed out is the number of big plays available to them deep down the field where they just have either it's been a rough throw or it's been a little bit too much pressure. I'm thinking about one that where Lacey had broken across the safety's face, and the ball kind of led him back into the middle of the field. And then the one near the end of the first half, which ends up being an interception because the pressure pushed him off the point. He didn't get enough on the throw.
It shut down the left side of the field. He had to go back to the right.
Yeah.
He threw the ball, falling backwards.
But if he stops there for a second, he's maybe got a little bit more time than he thinks he does. It's a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of those. I mean, look, he's played 95% of the snaps great.
Yeah.
And pretty good. There's just been some when everybody's talking about where the big plays are, where it's been a little bit errant throw. And like I said, that's because a lot of times it has to be perfect because he's playing with guys who are not getting big separation. So it either has to be a perfect throw or he has to have perfect protection.
Let me get into your wheelhouse here because I think that this game could be a huge one for Mason Taylor. I don't want to get into a shootout with Ole Miss, and Brian Kelly said as much. And I hope that they will be able to run the football better than the statistics suggest you would be able to run them against Ole Miss. But being able to control the ball the way Kentucky did will entail some sort of short passing game. And to me, that's where Taylor really can excel in that short to intermediate zone. He's caught more passes than anybody for LSU this year. And Rich, I think this is an opportunity for LSU to be able to control the football with these short passes, and Taylor has had a great year so far.
No doubt. I mean, he's been the safety blanket. We've talked about where I thought he's forced some balls to Taylor when he had other guys open, but he's the guy with Nuss has the most confidence in. He doesn't drop a lot of balls. I think I maybe dropped one ball all year. He's the guy that's been his consistent. When I got to make a play, I need 7 yards. Throw it in a tight window, and Taylor's going to make the play. He's the guy that can extend your drives. Like you said, he's great from 7 to 12 yards. Right there, when you get in the third to 7 to 12, Taylor's been able to find that hole, play with his long body, and extend and make plays.
He was a good player from the day he hit campus, and his football pedigree is well documented. But what's he doing better now? Well, why is he a veteran tight end? What are the things he's doing as a veteran tight end that maybe weren't there the last 2 years?
He's confident. He's smooth. He knows the defense. He recognizes zone versus man. I mean, once you get to that next level, your freshman year, you were the best guy on your high school team. You could play with athleticism, didn't really have to know defenses. What he's progressing in now is he's sitting in pockets. Instead of running out of an out route, he sees a corner sitting soft zone. He's curling up into space. He's a guy that's recognizing what the defense is doing and putting himself to make himself open, where otherwise if he just ran the route the way it was called, he'd be closed off. But now he's recognizing defense and knows where he can shorten up things.
If C.J. Daniels is unable to go, and then we found out this week that Kyle Parker is done for the season, and we're not expecting Hilton. So Brian Kelly said yesterday that this may open up some opportunities for Kamarian Pimpton and Trey'Dez Green to be a bigger part of this game plan. We've seen them a little bit. Jimbo, teach him one play. What's one or two plays that these inexperienced but long, athletic tight ends.
Throw me a jump ball.
Yeah.
Throw me a jump ball. Let me go against a 6'2" guy. I'm 6'6", 6'7". Let me use my, Trey'Dez is a basketball player too. Let me go high point a ball, get a rebound, and just beat my guy with my size.
They haven't done that really too much yet. Maybe this is
when you pull it out. There's plays that you've not seen because they haven't needed to use them. There's plays that they'll have in their back pocket for these guys that will.
I get it, and I think that maybe it's only one play. Maybe it's only one play, but that play might be the difference in the game.
Trey, to me, he is a wide receiver. He is a guy that can, stretch the field. He's, 6'7". My guess he probably runs somewhere around a 4.5. He can move. He's a weapon that's got to be utilized.
We're brought to you by Total Maintenance, AC and heating, generators, electricity, plumbing, your one-stop sales and service shop for all of these things since 1980, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC and heating companies. Service today, every day, so nobody's got to go to sleep hot. And you know what? Weather's cooling down a little bit. Later on, nobody got to go to sleep cold. Over the years, Total Maintenance has expanded their operation into New Orleans, full staffs in both markets. An authorized dealer for Carrier, American Standard, Daikin, and Rheem AC units, Generac and Cummings generators, all your electrical and plumbing needs as well. In Baton Rouge, 480-1000. In New Orleans, 841-3300. Service today, every day at Total Maintenance. Back to wrap up hour number 1. Log of the Week Friday at Ruffino's, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, coming down the stretch here, hour number 1. All right, Rich, give me a scenario. How does this game play out the way you see it?
I see it as a one-score game. I think if LSU, like you said, they limit the big plays. They play in rhythm. They extend drives. Replicate those long drives we've had in the last couple of games where you just stay in rhythm, stay consistent, stay third and short, second and short, and just keep them off the field. And my thing is hit Jackson Dart in the mouth. He's a guy that slows down the more he gets hit. So this is a game I'd be trying to push the line a little bit.
Physical
game.
Physical is the word. Yeah, I agree. You get out there, you make this as physical a game as you can, and try to keep, if possible, keep the ball away from them. A couple other games I wanted to ask you about in the league this week. Alabama's hosting South Carolina. Now the overwhelming, Alabama will be focused, they'll bounce back, and that could certainly happen. We've seen South Carolina play some really good games and a couple of really bad ones, including last week. Tide bounce back?
I think it's a closer game, but Tide wins.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of week it's been over there, but I imagine not real pleasant.
Yeah, I haven't even heard from my Alabama friends. They haven't want to talk a lot this week.
Alabama friends.
You
got Alabama friends. Jimmy's got an Alabama son, and now you guys are making it hard on me. Texas, Oklahoma.
Texas, Oklahoma, I think Texas rolls. Texas to me is the most complete team in the league.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers will be back for that game. All right, Rich, you'll be with us tomorrow pregame and the whole post game. So enjoy. Try to keep it
calm tonight. We go to the Central game.
Send the wife and kids off to
They're going to Mississippi in the morning.
All right, thanks a lot. We're back with hour number 2 here at Ruffino's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Ruffino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'll return here at Ruffino's. Hey, Jimmy.
What's up, Charlie?
Oh, man, it's Ole Miss week. It's great weather.
Is that a big deal these days?
This week, it's a big deal.
It is this year, isn't it? Huh?
Very big deal.
Huh?
Very, very big deal. How many times have we said since Johnny Vaught when we talk about this Ole Miss season? Well, this is the first time top 10 team since Johnny Vaught. So we know a little bit about
Lane Kiffin's conference record. We're not going to count that garbage they schedule non-conference, but and let's not be careful when 2/3 of your record already is one of the weakest non-conference schedules in the country. But he has SEC over the last 3 years, and we're coming into this year. They're 1-1 this year. The second This is the best conference record, 3-year run, since Johnny Vaught. Since Ole Miss was arguably and now Johnny Vaught was there for a long time. We're talking early 60s. 62 was the last year of this run, and it was like, I read it to you earlier, I mean, what, like 18-1 or something like that. I mean, it was unbelievable. They were arguably the best program in the country. I mean, they were right there, if not.
That's not hyperbole. Late 50s, early 60s, they were.
When my dad tells me about Ole Miss, when and it's not just a 59 game that he sold to Tiger Stadium. It was scheduled to play in Jackson. They didn't play on campus. Heck, I mean, they had portalets in the end zone 10 years ago. So, I mean, he said that they were a first class. I mean, the best of the best equipment. The looks, everything, just their look. Is it almost like kind of remind me like the 70s Dallas Cowboys or something? I mean, just kind of just had that clean, first class, modern. They were the crap, man. Back in that era.
What I want to, and they were no argument.
And it ain't been close since.
What I'm most anxious to see, and I hope we get a chance to see this tomorrow, is how Ole Miss reacts to some adversity. They didn't react very well in the Kentucky game when it didn't get off to the good start. When it was like, Kentucky, they don't think it's a show, they think it's a fight, and they started making penalties. And it sort of kept Kentucky hanging around until eventually they made the big play. The rest of the season, I don't know if they outside the Kentucky game, I don't know if they have trailed for. Did South Carolina? I don't think they ever had the lead. I don't think they've trailed
14-0 right after.
Yeah, I don't think they've trailed for a second of any of these games outside of Kentucky. So let me see them play in close quarters. Let me see them play from behind. Let me see them play when the crowd's getting in the game and there's a real pressure situation. Are they going to be able to make a play?
Well, the Kentucky game was the first little bit of pressure, and they crapped into bed.
And so, did they learn from that? Will they be better this time?
They sure look like they responded against South Carolina. That was not the same team.
They did, and so now you would hope that you are ratcheting up a little bit. A night game at Tiger Stadium against LSU should be harder than a day game at South Carolina. Should be. Does LSU have the players?
And
that's the thing. I need
certainly got more capable offense. The offense is definitely better. The quarterback's definitely better. Even though Sellers looked like Cam Newton against LSU, and it's all about who you play. I mean, Ole Miss's defense is considerably better than LSU's. Period. 2 years ago, do you want to play the second half with Howard Perkins coming off the edge? Oh, I mean, he's a poor man's Lawrence Taylor. Well, you weren't even going to play him there. We want to play him in coverage. And to where Herb Street and Fowler can have a little chuckle about it. Yeah. I mean, let them look me in the eye and tell me if their opposing offense they can put Harold Perkins wherever they want in coverage or coming off the edge. Kiss my ass, man. I mean, that's the most misused player that I've seen. So there you go. You weren't using him anyway. So he's gone for the year. But Ole Miss got way better front than LSU, and that shouldn't happen. For Ole Miss to be a favorite over LSU coming off a bye at night in Tiger Stadium, weather's good, and guess what? It matters because it can be fair weather, but when it checks all the boxes, we like to beat our chest. Oh, it's the best. It's the best when it checks all the boxes, and it does. LSU's still playing for something. Ole Miss is playing for something too. So I mean, it's going to be a tough environment. Road. Every time somebody talks about, what's this spread here, this spread there? Well, they're playing at home. I mean, they're playing on the road, okay? I mean, this is a real home field advantage. We talk about the gold sheet. When Bruce was doing it, they do a terrible job now, but would anywhere from 1 to 6 at home field value. Oh, tomorrow night's a 6. Oh, it's a 6. Coming off a bye. I mean, you think it's coincidental that Georgia, Alabama take a bye before their game? You think it's coincidental LSU, Alabama take a bye before their game every year? It's an advantage.
Not only is it a bye for LSU, it's the second straight week on the road. It's the third straight SEC game. It's the seventh straight game overall.
Game, yeah.
All of those things matter.
They're a little bit more bruised up.
Yeah. And I really believe that for all of the highlight film stuff that Lane Kiffin's offenses are known for, if I could look at one stat that, if I could know one stat in this game.
We're looking at conference or overall?
No, I'm talking about for tomorrow's game. If I could look ahead and I could see one stat to tell you who's going to win this game, I would want to look at the rush stats, because Ole Miss could not run the football against Kentucky, and they tried. Kentucky held them to 3
Kiffin always tries to run the ball.
Yeah, that's what they would like to do. And as much as the penalties and all those other things, why Kentucky was able to stay in that game was they were able to stop. Ole Miss rushed for 3 yards a carry in that game, and they kept after. They ran the ball 32 times. And if LSU is going to have some success in this game, they've got to slow down that. I get the mismatches in the secondary and all that, and I've talked about it, and that's scary too. But if Ole Miss can line up and run the football for 4.5, 5 yards a carry, that's going to make it really, really tough for LSU to win.
How good's Ole Miss's offensive line?
I think they're good. They're better than they've been in the past. Are they
really?
Yeah, I think they are a little bit.
You think they're a better rushing team this year?
Well, no, I don't think Parrish is as good as Judkins was.
No. I think Kiffin's rushing teams have been better in the past.
I think his backs have been better. I think that line is pretty good. I agree with what Saban said back in the summer, which is up front on both sides.
He was talking mostly on defense too.
But both sides. I think that they physically they look the part.
I don't think their rushing game's as good as it. In conference play. At the end of the year, I don't think they'll have as much yards per carry in conference play as they've had in previous years.
I agree, but I think it's as much about
Judkins. It is, but absolutely.
Judkins is a much better back than Parrish. Parrish is a very good back. Judkins is a.
But when we talk about Lane Kiffin, the up tempo and this and kind of wide, taking shots vertically and stuff like that, and he's really good in sequencing and setting down. How many times does he have guys seem like it's just not coincidence that it looks like opposing defenses always blow a coverage against him vertically. But, man, how many times is when he doesn't hesitate on that fourth down, and he's the best, he never flinches, and they get up there and they run it. How many times is the running play on fourth and short? A lot. He's going to be balanced. He's always going to be balanced. I think it's a what and what not. Maybe the offensive line's a little bit better, not as good. I just think at the end of the conference schedule, I don't think their yards per carry in conference play will be as strong as it usually is at Ole Miss. Close, but, and maybe Dart, 2 years ago, Dart missed some open guys, man. They could have run off and hid early in this one. I mean, some wide open guys for easy touchdowns. Yeah. And he was just kind of throwing the ball, and I heard Richard, and it kind of made sense. I mean, what are you doing trying to muscle up on that pass when there's nobody in the picture? I mean, you're trying to show off your arm, So, with all of the experience, he should be in a better position to handle the stage and the crowd. But, hey, man, they haven't done it for a long time. Their history is a big deal. Their history and their immaturity and them not respecting their opponent. I mean, that cost them the game against Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky can't rush it 46 times if they don't get 3 extra possessions in the first half. But look, it's all done, but we got to see, and I'll refrain, because I just don't think that in year 3 of your coaching tenure at LSU in this era, when you're afforded all the resources and budget that you have, that you should be a dog to Ole Miss at home. I don't care how freaking good they are or think they are. And they're okay so far. Their resume, I don't care what their preseason ranking is. What have they done? They split 2 games against South Carolina and Kentucky. You get no credit for beating Wake Forest. Give me a break. They might not win a game in ACC. The pitiful ACC. That's their toughest non-conference game. So it's Cupcake Central. What have they done to this point? But if they come in here and beat LSU on a Saturday night when the place is ready, and the place will be ready, that is a strike against Brian Kelly. Period.
Well, yeah, but and I don't disagree with what you're saying about Ole Miss, but again, take yourself out of this market and look at LSU from, like I said, 50,000 feet. If you look at LSU's, you say, what have they done? They lost to what is apparently a fading USC team. We'll see what they do against Penn State.
They'll be 7-5, 8-4. Now they only have one run and win. Keep in mind. Yeah. Keep in mind they play non-conference games in LSU and Notre Dame. Okay, right. So they're scheduled a little tougher, but they're 7-5, 8-4.
They just lost to a Minnesota team that's already lost 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, and they lost to a Michigan team that is a far cry from what they were last year.
For 32 yards.
Yeah, and you beat a bad UCLA team. You beat a South Alabama team that's, I'm sorry, no great shakes. I'm not giving them any credit for putting 87 points on the board against Northwestern. You should beat South Alabama.
No, LSU split against the two USCs.
Yeah, and then
UCLA's not ready. I mean, they left poor Deshaun Foster at the altar. I mean, Chip Kelly.
South Carolina is in the game. They got a field goal to send you to overtime.
LSU's fortunate.
Yes. So if you want
fortunate to be 1-1.
Resumes, I can poke quite a few holes in LSU's.
But Ole Miss has Ole Miss too to this point.
No, like I said, I have no argument with your assessment of Ole Miss's schedule. I can do the same thing to LSU.
No, I'm not. Well, that's why they're underdog at home. But I mean, both whoever loses is out. I mean, LSU tripping up against USC, and look, fortunate the quarterback. Now, how much? We watched both of those games very closely. It was just hard to think that was the same team South Carolina playing. I mean, is Ole Miss up front that much better? Is Ole Miss defensively that much? And I do think Ole Miss is – I think the offenses are a wash. I think Nuss is really good. I thought he'd be good. I think the Kelly's good. He has a great record of taking offenses and quarterbacks and being very productive and developing them over time as well. That's his strength. There's no doubt. And Kiffin's really good. I think it's a wash on the offenses. To me, Charlie, I saw the South Carolina. Did they just have that bad of a day? I don't think so. It's about who you play, and that's what concerns me the most. And Ole Miss's defense was so much better against South Carolina than LSU's.
Okay, I think that South Carolina just did have that bad of a day, and I'm basing it on this. 3 teams, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and South Carolina have all played each other. South Carolina went to Kentucky and beat the stew out of them. Kentucky went to Ole Miss and won. Ole Miss went to South Carolina and beat the stew out of them. These are the same teams. This all happened within 4 weeks of each other. It was this is how good you can be, and this is how bad you can be. And South Carolina, I saw them as good as they can be at Kentucky and as bad as they could be against Ole Miss. I don't have an explanation for it. I just know that I've seen all 3 of these teams play each other inside of a month and look very, very different.
When you have, we do this a lot, when you have this distinct, it's not just one reason. It's not just South Carolina had a bad day and a good day. It's about who they played to.
Matchups.
It's both.
Matchup.
Well, it's not just matchups. This is, you watch them. LSU is not as good as Ole Miss defensively.
They're not. No,
they're not.
No argument.
There's not as good. I mean, Kentucky didn't. I mean, they played Kentucky and South Carolina. Forget that garbage they played before. I mean, Kentucky's limited offensively, but they popped one play. I mean, they really didn't do anything.
No, they had about 330 yards, I think, in that game.
But their lack of discipline and their lack of maturity, their lack of respect for their opponent, you just can't give up 3 extra possessions. 3 dead ball fouls when you stop on 3rd down?
They had given up 13 points to 3 minutes to go in the game, and Kentucky popped the play. Ole Miss's defense has done everything that has been asked of them, save one play.
But Charlie, they got better players up front than LSU.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I didn't have to, but that's. I don't even know if that's debatable at this point.
We sat here right at Ruffino's, and you said year 2, LSU. It's expected. When Scott Woodward went to South Bend to pull Brian Kelly out of there, he said, "Yeah, but don't worry. It's not the biggest deal if you're a dog or you lose at home to Ole Miss in year 3. That is not acceptable.
Losing at home to Ole Miss is a big deal. If they win the game, I can forget very quickly that they were an underdog. If they lose the game, that's a whole different kettle of fish. What's for lunch?
Mincy was supposed to be here at 11, but he couldn't. I guess he's not old enough to rent a car. He couldn't find a ride from the New Orleans airport in time.
What, they stopped the motorcade? I mean, figured he'd come in here with an escort or something. bunch of black SUVs and a
Our
limo.
appetizer features today here at Rufino's and all through the weekend. You know, Gordy's got the big deal set up. We got to see if where's Howard? We got to see if they got any extra space for that. Mincy's supposed to be appearing in that, so if you want to come get 8x11 gloss, that's his ass. So look right behind us. Look at that new picture on the wall, huh, Charlie?
I watched him hang it.
Huh? You watched him hang it?
I watched him hang it.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Me, you, and Mayo, huh?
They hung it.
Mincy was going there. Talked to Allison this morning.
And
sweet child. I said to Allison, you were going to Mincy was going up, but he can't show up on time. Ain't going to make it.
Missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. Ain't going to make it. Scallops, seared scallops, polenta, chorizo with lemon butter over here at Rufino's today and all through the weekend. Short rib is another one of our appetizers. The braised beef short rib with cauliflower puree, with the right red wine reduction and pickled shallots. Lobster bisque with claw meat and tarragon oil. Our entree features, it's back, baby. Love this. The Chilean sea bass, pan-seared Chilean sea bass with the baby bok choy, toasted walnuts, sage, brown butter. Suggested wine pairing at Pejus Chardonnay out of Napa Valley. The Wagyu strip loin, 12-ounce Wagyu strip loin with herb butter, roasted Brussels sprouts, and mashed potatoes. Suggested wine pairing is the Frank Family Cabernet out of Napa. And we pour the Frank Family by the glass for Cabernet and also Chardonnay. And our dessert feature today, it's LSU Ole Miss. It's a little crisp in the air. It's October. It's the pumpkin brulee. That's right, with the Kai Latte whipped cream with candied pumpkin seeds. Charlie.
that sounds good.
Toddy, Ole Miss. Man, Toddy got your money. When's Ole Miss going to beat somebody? You can't lose this game, Brian Kelly. Come on, man.
Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris and Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Oh, the party just got a little stressful in San Diego with the Dodgers throwing out 8 relievers to go out and get the shutout in Game 4. Now it's back to do or die, winner take all in this nasty rivalry. Let's go out to San Diego, my buddy PB Chris. Chris, what's the pulse, baby?
What's up, Jimmy? I was texting with a few guys last night and saying I was afraid they might have blew their chance the night before. They just had it. They had it. They could have wrapped it up. It was all there on a silver platter. There was no Freddie Freeman. There was no starting pitching. And what do? They roll out Dylan Cease, who has only pitched, I wouldn't say even average the last couple starts. And guess who those last couple starts were against? The Dodgers. So basically, they're rolling them out there 3 times in a row versus the same team on short rest, a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. So, what? So what did you do with your future? I mean, you sent me where you got the Dodgers in a series hooked up with kind of like a parlay. Is that right?
Well, what I had was I had some really solid futures on Cleveland, Kansas City, and San Diego. San Diego to win the National League and the World Series. Cleveland and Kansas City just to win the American League. So I figured if all 3 of my teams go out, that would be a disaster. So what I did, and this is if you have access to DraftKings, FanDuel, one of those that allow you to do the future parlays, I figured I took some value with Georgia, who was plus 650, and I put them against all 3 of those teams. So I took the Dodgers, I took the Yankees, and I took Detroit. So if the Padres and the Cleveland Guardians blow it, I'll have pretty much a $20,000 bet to the Georgia Bulldogs to win the national championship. Just a little bit of a hedge. It's not what I want. Not what I wanted, obviously.
Georgia, 2 tough road games at Texas, at Ole Miss. Even if they win those, we talk a lot about 9-3 or 10-2 teams, and also the committee showed us last year that they'll take who they think is a better team than a better resume. With Alabama or over Florida State, clearly. And they got a better game, and they were reinforced by that approach because Florida State could not have played Michigan that tough to an overtime game.
If
No way.
If Georgia finishes 10-2 with a one-score loss at Alabama and say a one-score loss
No,
at Texas,
we're talking about 9-3.
Okay, 9-3. Because at 10-2, I think that they host.
No,
a
10-2. No.
No, I think they host, not just get in. They host.
That's.
Listen, they're one miracle pirouette from Ryan Williams away from being undefeated. I mean, what a ridiculously amazing comeback they had in the second half. Granted, they were asleep at the wheel in the first half, but I think Georgia, Kirby Smart, all those athletes, they'll figure it out. I think they'll be in the playoffs. So if, in fact, my two baseball series, flame out the next 2 days, I'll have a $20,000 ticket to Georgia, which is a nice little hedge at some point, or I could just ride it out.
$20,000 hedge. You got that, Max? Huh? Noted. Oh, it's Mincy Day, huh? Duly noted. All right, let's get right to it. You looking at the running Rebs hanging their heads a little bit, maybe after that tough loss against Syracuse, down to one play. You want to see why you still hit and wrap when you tackle. Fourth down, they had him stop, but they could not wrap him up. And Syracuse wins in overtime. You like the homestanding Aggies plus the 19 at home against UNLV tonight.
Well, Warren Sharp put out a tweet right after the controversial late hit on the play, the quarterback there, and everyone was up in arms. So I just wrote, "Hey, the big fella launched him," and I thought he did. I thought he launched. He left his feet. He hit him a little extra, like a split second extra. And you know what? I got so much feedback on this post. People from UNLV were still tweeting about it on Tuesday and Wednesday. To me, it was just like a offhanded comment. I just made an opinion. So I think not only the fans, but I think the players, the coaches, and everyone involved in UNLV is still going to be thinking about this. And to be laying 19 points on the road, Utah State, obviously the record's not good, but they've had some quarterback carousel. Now they've settled on Spencer Petras. He's been tremendous the last couple of weeks. I know the defense has been rough, but Petras had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions versus Boise last week. The defense hasn't been much, but look who they played: USC, Utah, Boise State. I mean, a murderous row schedule. I mean, if you look at who UNLV's played, it's been kind of Cupcake City. They beat Kansas, whose only win was against Lindenwood, Dixie State, Houston, Fresno, and they lost to Syracuse. So I think this is a tough spot, emotional letdown. I mean UNLV, I just don't think their defense, who gave up 492 yards against Syracuse last week, 34 first downs, should be laying 19 on the road. So I'm going with the Aggies plus 19.
All right, the Running Rebels not used to being in sort of I guess relevant games.
Jimmy, I got to correct you. The running Rebels is only for basketball, not for football.
Oh, okay, all right, The passing Rebels. All right, let's go. Let's get to it. The Oklahoma plus 14.5 in Dallas, neutral site here. This is a bigger line than anticipated. But who has Texas played?
Why is this game not the first game of the day like it's been for the last century? I'm confused about that.
I know, but Paul Stone, that's why he's not going. It's past his bedtime.
USCC guys screwed it all up. But, hey, we had a discussion this summer, Jimmy. You told me that Texas had the easiest schedule in the country, pretty much, as an SEC team. And I kind of gave you a little pushback. But now looking back on it, you were kind of correct. Colorado State, UTSA, yeah, they beat Michigan. Michigan can't throw a forward pass. Mississippi State, UL Monroe. I mean, come on. These teams are, sisters of the poor. What do you call them? What do you say?
Renowinds.
Potato-win games, yeah. So I'm telling you, Texas really hasn't played much. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be a little rusty. He hasn't played in about a month. And I think this Oklahoma defense is going to be able to muck it up with Venables. I had a quick story. In 2015, I actually went to this game. It was Baker Mayfield rolling in to the old Cotton Bowl, a 16.5-point favorite. Charlie Strong was the head coach for Texas. So the result, as you expected, not so fast. 7-0 right off the rip for the Longhorns. 2 minutes later, they recovered a fumble and punched it in again, 14-0. They held on to win 24-17. These games, it seems every year you just throw the records out, you throw the spread out. Anyone can win these games, and I think Oklahoma, who's played a much tougher schedule, that gutty win against Tulane's looking better every day. They lost to Tennessee, but they fought hard all the way through. Same with the Auburn game. I think Venables on an extra week, and hopefully this quarterback, Michael Hawkins, can get the offense running a little bit better than Jackson Arnold. I think 14.5 or 14 is a lot, so I'm going with the Sooners.
All right, let's creep up a little bit. We are up against the clock. Pitt minus it's 3.5 now, Chris. Eli Holstein, the local product, just down the road, man, having a heck of a year. And now they catch Cal, maybe hanging their heads after, man, that's a tough beat, up 25.
Yeah, tough travel spot, tough hangover spot. They blew it on college game day was there. They had the big lead, 35-10, ended up losing 39-38. Another controversial targeting call. You get to fly 2,500 miles across the country. I'm going to lay it with Pitt. This team's been on fire. 15 touchdowns for Eli Holstein against only 3 interceptions, 1,600 yards in 5 games. Like I said, tough travel spot, tough hangover spot, tough Pittsburgh team. I'm going with Pitt.
All right, your next pick, North Carolina State. They're winless against the spread. Chris, they do. Maybe some value here, a buy low spot, hosting Syracuse, who's been one of the upstart teams this year.
Yeah, I played NC State on the Open at 4.5. This is the end of the Grayson McCall era, thankfully. I'm not wishing any harm on him. I know that was a vicious hit. But I think C.J. Bailey, one of the top high school recruits in the country from Chaminade, Madonna, out of Hollywood, Florida, 92 touchdowns his junior and senior year. This kid can play. This is another tough travel spot. Syracuse, after the big emotional win, has to fly back to upstate New York and fly back down to Raleigh. Tough travel spot, tough letdown spot. And Cuse hasn't played much of a schedule either. NC State's had some played Tennessee, Clemson. They've had no stability at quarterback. Finally, they do. And I think this kid and the potential, he had 272 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. With a full week of practice, I'm liking the home dog here.
All right, Penn State, USC, last time they played in Los Angeles, 52-49 Rose Bowl. Saquon Barkley, Trace McSorley against Sam Darnold. Well, not quite the high-powered offenses here, but, hey, James Franklin got to win this one. This line is going down. It's down to 3.5 now, 2:30 kickoff at the Coliseum.
Yeah, I played USC on the Open +6, but I'll take whatever you can get here. I think USC wins this game. I apologize to the listeners for giving out Penn State last week. Penn State is just their offense is horrible to watch. They beat a sloppy West Virginia team with 3 turnovers in the first half. They were trailing the whole game to Bowling Green. Big deal. They beat Kent State. Struggled against Illinois. Struggled against UCLA. They only had 322 yards against UCLA, and I'm just not a fan of Drew Aller. I don't see it. Now they got to go 2 time zones over, 2,600 miles. USC has some weapons, and Penn State definitely has not faced an offense with the quarterback quality of Miller Moss. This Woody Mox is a hell of a running back. They got all sorts of weapons at wide receiver. And what a schedule they've already played. I mean, USC's played LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Penn State's played nobody, and they struggled. So I'm going with USC. I think they win the game outright.
All right, Chris. So yeah, get your mind off the ponies, Hollywood Park, huh? It's Hollywood, Florida, baby.
Hey, Keeneland kicks off in 27 minutes today. Keeneland, baby.
Hey, Lexington, Kentucky. Strongly advise that. We did shows right next to the winner's circle and TVG stands when LSU plays in Lexington. Chris, great stuff as always. Good luck to you this weekend. Go Pods tonight.
All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.
All right, don't forget our friends at United Community Bank, the local way to bank big with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow, including the newest location at Burbank and Bluebonnet. We've been serving the people of southern Louisiana for over 50 years. Running a business can be difficult enough without the right relationship with your bank. With United Community Bank's local business bankers, you're not just a number, you're a partner. Our great team of bankers, Heath Meir, Nicole Glover, Hunter Creed, David Henry, Prentice Wilkes, and David Campbell. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. 3 best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
All right, Troy, let's get to it. Full day of college football, a lot of intriguing games. The 80% Club, or any of the big ones on the slate tomorrow, and the 80% Club on the spread, on the spread meter here.
Yeah, so some notable teams, but not any of the notable teams in the big game. So, Clemson minus 21 at Wake Forest is not good. That is 97% of the money and also 86% of the tickets on Clemson to cover 21 points.
86% of the tickets, okay.
Notre Dame minus 23 against Stanford. Notre Dame, a big-time program. Stanford has a couple of okay wins, but, not a big game this weekend. 94% of the money on them to cover, 81% of the tickets on them as well. Missouri, that's been a well-talked-about team this year, minus 27.5 at UMass, one of the bottom feeders, 86% of the money and 81% of the tickets there. Those are the big programs that are in 80% in both tickets and money. And the one that people are talking about, or I've noticed you've included them on some of your bets, we're getting very public action on this team, is Army. Army's taking on UAB. They're minus 27, 84% of the money, 91% of the tickets. And the other notable one is Boise State. Everyone's talking about because of Ashton Jinky. They're playing at Hawaii, which is a tricky travel destination. Boise State minus 21, 93% of the tickets and 80% of the money on Boise State to cover 21.
Gotcha.
Those are the overlapping 80% club ones.
Yeah. Well, we're doing Football Sunday, and the 70% club in the NFL. It's a little bit tighter with these splits,
Right.
but all three of them covered. So it was a kind of a public day on Sunday. Did the public have a winning week last week?
It went the way of the book overall, but there were more individual game wins that were in the red for the book, meaning a public win. So they did beat us. They probably beat us in head to head. Like if there were 14 games, we ended up in the red in probably 8 of them. But where we won very big, which tends to be the case with the book.
Yeah, gotcha. Charlie, anything for Troy?
Just that UAB has been particularly embarrassing the last few weeks. They had that close game against Arkansas where they looked, reasonable. They lost to Arkansas by 10. And
wow.
then
That seems like
a long time ago.
Yeah.
The bottom has just fallen out. Trent Dilfer had to apologize publicly for, I'm going to call it his attitude. So tough sledding over there right now.
Yeah. What are we looking at in the NFL this week is where the public action is? Or what about the big games, Troy, in college, before we get to that? Whether it's Penn State, USC, Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, Ole Miss, Oregon, Ohio State. I'm curious where the action is on that. We've seen some line movement, so obviously some respected money has come on USC, and well, it might not be. Is Florida ready to be competitive in a big spot after they were impressive the last couple of years?
I think this is a bad spot. I think they catch an aggravated Tennessee team at home. I think this is a bad spot. And you brought it up about the series history, which had kind of gotten away from me. But, no, I think this is a bad spot for Florida.
And also, Troy, where is the Vandy, Kentucky? There are field rush fades, and then there's what happened in Nashville last week. My goodness. That's a tough spot to kind of get back it up and play against a capable team in Kentucky.
Yeah, well, we'll start with that one. Right now Kentucky's been backed by 60% of the spread money, but Vanderbilt's backed by 63% of the spread tickets, and it's flip-flop on the money where 64% of the money is on Vanderbilt to win, 66% of the tickets are on Kentucky to win. So there's a difference of opinion there. That is an interesting one, considering, Kentucky had some wild back and forth where they were, lame against, South Carolina, and people were fading them hard against Georgia, and then they put up a hell of a fight against Georgia. And we, obviously know what Vanderbilt is capable of this year, not just with the Alabama win, but the win at Virginia Tech, which doesn't look as good because Virginia Tech's not as good as we thought, but still, Vanderbilt picking up wins is huge. So for the big games, Ohio State and Oregon on the spread is separated by less than $200. Those are the two biggest plays thus far by money. And right now, we're talking like 50.1% of the spread money is on Oregon and 49.9% of the spread money is on Ohio State. A little bit more lopsided in the money to win. Right now, 86% of the money is on the Buckeyes to win, and 76% of the tickets is on the Buckeyes to win. And there's a difference of opinion on the over-under. Right now, 67% of the money is on the under. 76% of the tickets is on the over for that game. I personally like the Buckeyes. I think Oregon's a good team, but I think Ohio State is a level above them. They're in the upper echelon, and I think Oregon's in that second cut. And then, right now we got a lot of tickets backing Texas to win. They're the most popular ticket of the weekend to beat Oklahoma. But the fifth most popular ticket is Oklahoma plus 14. So the public, from a ticket standpoint, on Texas to win, Oklahoma to cover.
Troy, on that Vanderbilt-Kentucky game, could you explain to people what that means when the money and the tickets are at a discrepancy like that?
Yeah, well, typically, if there is, where the money is more than the tickets, that's what, it would be an indication of sharp money, big bets, typically from, very smart players, where, there is, all, because the thing is so not all money and tickets are created equal. One ticket is one ticket is one ticket, where one ticket can be worth $1,000. It could be $1. So, when you have more money than tickets, it indicates that people are investing large sums of money on the team, where, when you look at a game like the Texas-Oklahoma, not a tremendous amount of money thus far on Texas to win, but a lot of tickets indicating that, people are playing very small. That's going to be your that's a big parlay play where people are tacking on the bets, but they may be 50 cent, $1, $5, $10 bets. Certainly they add up over time, but they're not as big as, the sharp money coming in. So we are seeing some sharp money there on Vanderbilt to win, but also some sharp money on Kentucky to cover.
Bigger tickets. It seemed like last night's game, the public got that one right. It seemed that everybody was on San Francisco. Was that the case at Bet Rivers, Troy?
Yes, at least in the pregame. We took some decent money on Seattle live, I believe right before halftime, in and around when Jordan Mason suffered an injury. So the numbers, especially on the spread, it's right now, post game is only 55% of the money was on San Francisco to cover. When I can tell you that was not the case pregame. I think it was in closer to 65%. Same with tickets. It was around 63% of the tickets on San Francisco to cover. It ended at 54% of the tickets. So we saw a lot of in-game on Seattle, and especially late when they did, make a comeback, and that game turned into a shootout. But from a money line standpoint, and it wasn't a super long number. I believe San Francisco was minus 180, minus 190 maybe. 75% of the post-game money was on San Francisco to win. 71% of the post-game tickets on San Francisco to win as well, and that was similar to pregame. So, we did take a small loss overall on the game, which indicates, if props weren't included and things like that, if it was just money line over, under, and spread, we would have taken a much bigger loss.
Yeah. Most of the masses hit that one last night with San Francisco. Every outlet that I was in communication with said that they had San Francisco. I had Seattle, and we took it on the chin. Also, the Alabama Sigma Chi chapter had Seattle last night, so BJ's in trouble today.
Yeah,
but anyway.
You're popular today.
So, hey, we looking at in the pros this week, Troy, before we let you go. How many over 70% as far as the spread number of tickets?
So right now, in number of tickets, it's only 5 games.
Okay.
And one of those is there's 6 games, and one of those is the Jets Bills on Monday night. I anticipate that one coming down, just because we haven't seen the large bulk of tickets yet. Same with the Bengals at Giants on Sunday night. I expect that to come down. But right now, Atlanta -6 at Carolina, 85.6% of the tickets. Pittsburgh -3 at Las Vegas, 79.5% of the tickets. Bengals -3 at the Giants, 72.2% of the tickets. Bears, Jaguars early morning in London, 71.8% of the tickets. And Washington +6.5 at Baltimore, 70.9% of the tickets. So what you're seeing there is, people fading Carolina, Las Vegas, and New York, all home teams, but liking Atlanta, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. But I anticipate 2 of those to come down closer to 60%. I think Atlanta will stay put in around 80%. That's probably going to be the most sure 80%, or by the time kickoff happens at 1 p.m. I believe it's a 1 p.m. game.
So the early game, they're betting on Chicago?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you said Chicago, Jacksonville. Okay, very good. All right, follow Troy on Twitter, at Troy Macker. That's Machir. Troy, good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you Monday.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Oh, yes, indeed. Don't forget our friends at Total Diamond Performance. Their high school fall baseball program is underway right now. We started our first session on September 30th. That goes through October 25th. Second session, you don't want to miss that one, October 28th through November 22nd. And then the third, and November 25th and December 20th. So the travel ball, you're taking a little bit of time off. You're ready to get back into it and Get where you can sharpen up your skills when that winter and spring travel ball schedule starts off. Get in touch with Nick at tdpbaseball.com to reserve your spot today. The 2024 Total Diamond Performance High School Fall Baseball Program offers a blend of skill acquisition training, throwing, hitting, defense, paired with strength and agility training. Players will be placed in small groups to optimize quality of instruction and maximize repetitions. So we have programs in place for both position players and pitchers only. Again, contact Nick Schneider, Nick at tdpbaseball.com for more information and to reserve your spot.
Live at Rufino's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Rufino's Live at Lunch. Ross Dellinger from Yahoo broke this story this morning. The Advocate has picked it up. Greg Brooks, former LSU football player, is suing LSU over acts of malpractice. The 13-page suit says that the former LSU player is now permanently disabled, cannot walk a year after the surgery. That the lawsuit reads that he told coaches and athletic trainers that he was dizzy, had a headache, and was nauseous, all neurological symptoms, and that he was handed Zofran to deal with the nausea and cleared to return without further diagnosis. After completing some drills, he felt dizziness, and the lawsuit claims that LSU coaches encouraged him to practice and play through these symptoms. Among those named in the suit are Brian Kelly, defensive coordinator Matt House, safeties coach Kerry Cooks, athletic trainer Owen Stanley, and two of LSU's team doctors. LSU released a statement that said that due to privacy laws, they will not comment on specific individuals or situations. And a very terrible story that Greg Brooks, a year after leaving that game with that injury, is in a place where he is now, according to this lawsuit, permanently disabled. Very sobering story here before this weekend. We'll take a break. We'll come back with hour number 3 live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Going to be festive over here, especially tonight. I mean, over 500 on the books, I think it is, for tonight. LSU Ole Miss, something on line. Charlie, top 10 matchup since when?
62.
Charlie, what were you doing when you were 1962, Charlie?
Man, a little before my time. I bet you Bruce knew that stat, though, probably. He probably remembers the game in 62.
Bruce, 62, huh? Where were you at, boy?
62, I was in Inglewood, California, and it was 15-7, 15-7, I think, Ole Miss won. Though I don't remember the specifics of that game. But let me tell you where I'm going this week. I am on my road trip, so I'm going to Penn State USC. I bring in my passport with me because this is my first international game of the year because, as you know, Los Angeles is not the United States. So when I get into the Coliseum, I want them to stamp that passport right next to Zurich and Milan and these other places I go in and out of the Coliseum. So I will be there tomorrow in foreign territory watching Penn State USC.
Yeah, Milan, it's very, very close to, I mean, it's basically, the Coliseum is right next to Compton, right? Is it Watts? Where tell me, Bruce. You're the Southern, you're the SoCal boy.
Watts is closer. You know, my grandparents used to live right across the street from the Coliseum, so I used to go there when I was young. We'd park cars in the yard, and then Ram games, when we didn't go, we could, walk over in the fourth quarter. They would open up the gates, believe it or not. So I saw several games when I was at grade school, just walking in in the fourth quarter when they opened up the gates. But yeah, it's right. They've tried to fix that area up a little bit around there, but it's still LA.
I love the fact that we asked Bruce about the 1962 game, which we didn't tell him we were going to ask him about that. We didn't even think we were going to ask him about it. And he doesn't remember anything about the game except the exact right final score.
He got it right?
Jimmy? Yes, he got it right. I had to look it up. I didn't even know.
Do you remember the Archie Who game? Was that the first prime time? Do you remember watching that, the first prime time college football broadcast, Charlie?
Yeah, I do, but let me mention, it was 69, and that was a great game and against Alabama, and I do remember watching that. But let me just remind everybody, ABC's opening game that season was a night game. It was Air Force was playing SMU in the Cotton Bowl Saturday night. So what the correct thing, and that was the first SEC nationally televised night game because ABC had put that Air Force SMU game. Nobody's going to mention that to you except me, but believe me, I'm right.
So, but some people, LSU Ole Miss was the first, prime time game. I mean, was LSU Alabama? You got the schedule, huh, Charlie? LSU Alabama. Ole Miss Alabama was.
Yeah. Well,
before or after LSU Ole Miss?
That was before, in 69, that was before LSU Ole Miss, so that was in early October.
Okay.
But the thing was, they had started the new TV season by that point, and Lawrence Welk was not going to move his show up earlier, so they kicked it off at like 9 p.m. Central Time. So the Air Force SMU game was before they started showing the new season of shows. So anyway, a little 1969 trivia for you.
Well, Lawrence Welk wouldn't want to move, and Ben Mintz wouldn't want to. He didn't want to rent a car. I mean, he's not old enough to rent a car, so he couldn't make it to the New Orleans airport over here. He would have his picture on the wall with us, like Hold the Mayo does, but some people are a little bit more dedicated to their craft than others, Charlie.
And in '62, LSU didn't even play Alabama. I'm learning all kinds of new stuff on the show today. I figured they'd played Alabama every year since
Stick
the 50s.
around, Charlie.
Yeah.
So he see that.
I gotta have the guy out in Nevada tell me things I don't know about LSU
I
football.
try to teach him all the time, Bruce, but he only listens to the professor, Bruce Marshall. Let's get to the damn picks, Brucey. Enough of the damn history out there. Lawrence Welk, Ben Mintz, huh? Who knew?
A 1 and a 2 and a 3.
Who we got this week, Brucey? Give me your top high profile. The Power Four, the kind of some of the bigger games. Who you liking this week?
Okay. Good. Well, my wife doesn't listen to me, so I'm glad Charlie at least.
We know that. We know that.
I'm going to throw a little curveball right at the start here. I usually don't give you an NFL game, but I'm jumping out of my socks for this one. Denver should not be an underdog against the Chargers. Denver should not be the underdog in this game. The Chargers haven't won in Denver for 6 years. Herbert is hurting. Denver is coming on. Denver's pass defense is as good as there is in the NFL, with Surtain shutting down one side and Riley Moss the other. The Chargers don't have any wideouts either. Bo Nix is getting better. Denver's going to win this game. Bet it on the money line. So there's one there. In colleges this week, very interesting. Some games in the SEC. We'll get to LSU in a minute, I know. I'm actually going to give Vandy a shot here, plus the points. And it's been coming down a bit against Kentucky. Now, historically speaking, the last time they beat Alabama was 1984. We released Vanderbilt, plus 6.5. They won that game. They started 4-0 that year, coached by George McIntyre, the father of Mike McIntyre, now down at Florida International. Quarterback Kurt Page. They were all excited, 4-0. We went with them again the next week against Tulane. They lost the game outright, laying like 14, and they lost 6 of their last 7. The season fell apart in 84. I don't think that's going to happen to this team, at least as long as Diego Pavia is there. He is just too scrappy. He's Joe Cap-like. You saw what he did against Alabama. That doesn't look fluky here with what Vandy's doing, and that's the Jerry Kill influence on the staff. Clark Lee has stumbled into a couple of additions there to his staff and his team that are pretty good. The New Mexico State connection and Kentucky, robust defensively, but I'm not sure they're that dynamic offensively. To win this thing by 2 touchdowns is too much, I think. So I don't expect a letdown for Vandy tomorrow. So I will give Vandy a shot there. I'm also going to give Virginia a shot, getting an touchdown. Maybe you might get a hook there. against Louisville. I'm sorry, I am not bowled over by Louisville. They bullied a couple of teams right out of the box this year, Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. We're very fortunate to beat Georgia Tech. Tyler Shuff, the quarterback, much traveled. He's like 30 years old now. He's good when you give him time in the pocket, and his running game works to help him out. Otherwise, though, we saw it. SMU got him last week. If they can't run, he's not. He misses that diversion there. He is not mobile. I'm telling you, Virginia is pretty scrappy now. I give Coach Elliott some credit after I've been down on him for a while. So I'm going to give. I'll give Virginia a shot plus a 7. And also, in L.A. tomorrow, I'm going to give Minnesota's better than UCLA. We've talked. UCLA didn't look so horrible last week, but I was talking to people, not just the Penn State game, but this offense. They haven't scored more than 17 points yet. Eric Bieniemy is so. I don't know if I say out of his depth, but he's just doing everything wrong with what UCLA is doing. They've got two quarterbacks with different skill sets in Garbers and Martin. He's not doing anything different with either of them in the lineup. Garbers was hurt last week. He's apparently going to be ready to go here. Minnesota is not bad. The running back Wilson is the best player on the field. Brosmer, the quarterback's not bad. PJ Fleck can beat both LA schools back-to-back. I think he's going to do it, and it's a short price. By the way, history, Last time Minnesota played in the Rose Bowl was in 1962 in the Rose Bowl game. And who do they play? UCLA. And they won 21-3. So 62 years later, they do it again.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Eric Bieniemy's doing anything wrong. The biggest mistake that he made is, leave Patrick Mahomes and go pick up UCLA's offensive personnel. And PJ Fleck, just tell the Gopher fans, just know who you are. You're going to get a better coach than him. Just relax. I know he's got his faults, please. Virginia here, I'll add to your pick on minus again +7 at home against Louisville. Virginia's one loss at home to Maryland. Okay, -3 in the turnovers and a failed fourth down. So basically 4-0 turnovers in that one loss against Maryland. I was impressed that they methodically beat Boston College, and that's with the healthy Castellanos there. Now, Vandy, there's field rush fades, okay, and then there's what happened to Vandy. But Kentucky laid double digits against anybody, Charlie?
That's strange. And, Max was giving us – Vanderbilt's team total is 14.5 in this game. That seems remarkably low for a team with Diego Pavia quarterback.
Pavia got COVID?
Not that I know of.
Bruce, is Pavia playing with a mask on Saturday? Huh? Liz, what time's that game?
He reminds me of one of those boxers I used to see coming up in L.A., the Olympic Auditorium, the Raul Rojas and those tough guys like that. One note, Vanderbilt is also over in all 5 of its games thus far. So that 14.5 on the Vandy total and the total itself, 46. I know Kentucky's not that dynamic, but Vandy, look, they got into a shootout with Bama last week. Every Vandy game, even the one that went to overtime, was over, I think, in regulation against Virginia Tech. So Vandy's also going over every game.
Is Lexington in the Eastern time zone? I cannot remember here because
I'm pretty sure it is.
That they are.
Yeah.
Okay, because, when you turn on the TV and you watch it at 6:45 and the stadium's half empty, they're coming. They're in traffic. They're coming from Keeneland. Okay, Keeneland. I'm set. They're in the Eastern time zone?
Eastern time zone.
Yeah. There you go. So, it's
They used to be coming from basketball practice.
Well, I've sat there for LSU.
They leave early for basketball
practice. For LSU Kentucky, and they are, it is a traffic jam coming,
And Kentucky's been an under team for a few years now, but these games have typically gone high scoring as well. That 44.5, but Vanderbilt, 14.5, that does seem very low.
Yeah, sorry. All right, Bruce, so how about Group of 5, some of the lower volume games where you where we got to lean on you for some of these picks. And before I got one more question, go ahead. Who you got?
Sure. By the way, Lexington, you've been to the Red Mile ever in Lexington too? The harness track. That's that's for the real hardcore. If you go to the
Let me guess, it opened in 1962.
Yeah,
right?
Bruce, even I have standards. Okay, only the thoroughbreds. Okay, please.
Okay. I'm going to give you a couple totals plays involving Mountain West teams. And they're tomorrow night later. Both will be on late TV. Oregon State and Nevada. This one's high 40s. I don't think that's high enough. Listen, Oregon State, Oregon State's got two running backs who might gain 1,000 yards this year.
Yes.
So they're running up a storm for the Beavers, and Nevada, the quarterback Lewis, who had been at Colorado pre-Dion, is actually doing pretty well there. They're a lot more lively. They could have won that game against San Jose, which was a great game last week. This total's not high enough. That's Hankerson and Griffin, who are the two running backs at Oregon State, who could both get 1,000 yards this year. So I think that game's going to go over. And late night watching, real late night, Boise at Hawaii. We mentioned this last week. I don't think anybody in the Mountain West can tackle Ashton Genty. If Spencer Danielson wanted last week, I think Genty could have I think Samaje Perine owns the record single game. He probably could have broken that last week. Utah State could not tackle him. I don't know that Hawaii is going to be able to tackle him anymore, but look at the points Boise's scoring. In this league, this offense is really, really dynamite. And Madsen, the quarterback, is putting up good numbers, and Genty back and forth. The total is around 60. Boise is likely to get 50 on its own any week, and the weather will be okay, good enough there. That's an over. So two late-night overs involving Mountain West tomorrow night for me.
All right, how you see LSU and Ole Miss? This is the Ed Ogeron Bowl. I mean, one guy, he goes to LSU, maybe arguably the best season in history of the college football, national championship. Well, the other place, it's, how was his conference record, Charlie? I don't know.
Ooh.
About 4-20. Okay,
Ish.
something like that. But that the team that is 4-20. Ole Miss is favored on the road here at Baton Rouge.
Yeah. By the way, Brett Norsworthy. He made
I love
sure
Brett.
He said, you know what? You guys are going to talk about Ole Miss and LSU. You're going to bring up Billy Cannon. Just remember to mention to all those people that Ole Miss won the rematch in the Sugar Bowl. So, for Brett's sake,
just to remind Brett that they took 3 votes, and every time they said no, we don't want to play in the Sugar Bowl over and over and over.
Know.
So
he said, 21-0, still 21-0. Anyway, that's just for Brett. That's the. But this one, I like LSU. I my own number, I don't have them a dog in this game. South Carolina just kind of imploded last week. Sellers only had a couple starts under his belt. The offense just didn't do much, and I give Ole Miss credit for bouncing back. But the defense has played much better for Ole Miss than LSU's defense thus far. But this is about when Brian Kelly's LSU has hit the afterburners the last couple of years, and they have shifted gears. Nussmeier is on his way. He's already got 15. He could end up throwing 35 touchdowns this year. I mean, he's putting up some really good numbers. And this has been a home-oriented series, real home-oriented in recent years. Now LSU is getting points in Baton Rouge. I am on the LSU side to win this thing outright tomorrow against the Rebels. Sorry, Brett.
All right, Bruce. Brett's the only man that gets dressed in the same way as I do for Del Mar Opening Day of SEC Media Days. He's over there in his
nice hat.
Yeah, yes, he's got the hat in the hat. Oh shoot, man, my man. I love Brett. He is the quintessential Colonel Reb. Love that man. All right, Bruce. Thank you, buddy. Good luck to you this weekend. We'll talk to you. And please try and travel safely down to the Coliseum.
I'll try my best. I'll try.
Don't forget our friends at Total Maintenance. We're one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest air conditioner and heating companies. Founded in 1980, our team of over 50 with 30 working together for over a decade offer more elite service for AC and heating than anybody else. We service all homes and businesses in the New Orleans and Baton Rouge area, but we do have separate offices, completely separate staffs in both of these areas. So if you're in Baton Rouge, 480-1000, 480-1000. In the New Orleans area, it's at 504-841-3300. Mention me, Jimmy Ott, and ESPN Radio. Get half off diagnostics, including half after hours, holidays, and weekends. Or if you want to do the one-time heater or AC visit, it's just $79. It's normally $179. Our membership programs cover all services with discounts and extended warranties. We'll let you know when it's time for your unit to be serviced instead of you trying to keep track of it yourself and That's not exactly on your priority of trying to keep that track of things. We'll keep you straight. That way, it'll keep your unit running efficiently for lower monthly bills and also extend the lifetime of your unit as well, which was never a good time to replace that unit. Total maintenance, 841-33. In Baton Rouge, total maintenance, 480-1000, 480-1000.
Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff's 5-pack of picks. Brought to you by Supreme Rice. Make sure you use Louisiana rice, grown by Louisiana farmers since 1936. Available at most local grocery stores. Supreme Rice.
Ooh. Go Horseshack on you, Charlie. Charlie hot. Charlie hot. Back-to-back 4-in-1 weeks. Charlie, very well done. So last week, again, looking at it, Navy in a rout. SMU wins outright as a 6.5-point dog. Texas Tech plus 6.5. They went outright too, huh? Well, they're 3-0 in the conference.
Yes.
I would suppose so. Mm-hmm. Clemson rolled again. Klubnik's on fire. Stanford lost. Not too really in it in that one. 17-13 overall. Back-to-back 4-in-1 weeks. Let's go.
Take Arizona State tonight, plus the 5.5 against Utah. Cam Rising, game time decision. Stop me if you've heard that one before. Don't even care anymore. Utah's wins against Oklahoma State and Baylor aren't aging very well. Wins against Southern Utah and Utah State. Who cares? Last time out, they scored 10 points in a home loss to Arizona. Now, Arizona State's won 4 out of 5. The loss was to Texas Tech on the road by 8. They outgained the Red Raiders in that game, lost a turnover battle by 1. Cam Scatibo, I'm probably mispronouncing that. Second leading rusher. Scatibo, yeah. Second leading rusher in the Big 12, 6th in the country. Utah's run defense is good, not quite as impenetrable as they have been with some of their past. Just, looks a little bit too much for me. I'm going to take the home team with the points. The short week is negated by Utah coming off of a bye. So we'll take Arizona State plus the 5.5. Washington State minus 3.5 at Fresno State. Wazoo handed Texas Tech their only loss. They handed San Jose State their only loss. They beat Washington in the early Apple Cup and handed Washington one of 2 losses. Don't you hate it when a stat just breaks up a great cadence? Well, we went against them at Boise State because it was a bad spot. They were going against a rested Boise State team. Now they're coming off of a bye. I like them to beat a good team. I don't know if Fresno State's a good team or not. They beat Sacramento State, New Mexico State, New Mexico. But they got beat by 20 against Michigan, and then they ran into that buzzsaw at UNLV, who was playing with a chip on their shoulder 2 weeks ago. They come off of a bye as well. Washington State, 10th in the nation in total offense. Fresno State, 75th in total defense. Give me the Cougs, minus 3.5. The bookmakers set up Oregon to be a real sexy underdog, but I'm going with Ohio State minus 3. Buckeyes have destroyed everybody that they've played, which hasn't been much. Iowa's okay. They're good on defense. Ohio State rang up 412 yards and 35 points. Emeka Egbuka caught 3 touchdown passes in the game. He's not even Ohio State's most talented receiver. That's the freshman Jeremiah Smith. He may not be quite as good as Ryan Williams, but he's close. And here's the thing. The only relevant stat that favors Oregon is pass offense, and it's by an eyelash. Total offense, total defense, scoring offense, scoring defense. You go down the list, and Ohio State leads in every category, and some of them by a lot. Oregon leads in pass offense, and the best 2 receivers in the game are playing for Ohio State. Look, neither team's played anybody that's off the charts. The only ranked team is Boise State. They're ranked now. They weren't ranked then. It took Oregon a field goal at the gun to do that. My eyeballs tell me that Ohio State is better. Dylan Gabriel's had some really bad turnovers in the red zone in multiple games, not just one. Will Howard's not immune to bad turnovers, but I just think the Buckeyes are better. Outson gives the Ducks a chance, but I'm going to take Ohio State minus the 3. Kansas State minus 3.5 at Colorado. K-State got blown out by BYU 38-9, despite the fact that in that game they outgained the Cougars by 136 yards. What did BYU get? They got a fumble return, they got a punt return, they got 3 total turnovers for Kansas State. It's just one of those nights wins over a good Tulane team on the road. They beat a decent Arizona team pretty soundly. I'd like to give them some credit for beating Oklahoma State, but that's not really working anymore. K-State's second-best rushing team in the Big 12. Colorado is 11th in rush defense. Now, I'm going to give Colorado some credit. They went down to Central Florida, and they won the game by 27. But look a little bit closer. UCF won the yardstick by 43 yards in a four-touchdown loss. 4 turnovers, 80 yards in penalties. Again, one of those nights, one of those touchdowns was a 95-yard scoop and score. Colorado's other wins, Baylor on a Hail Mary, Colorado State and North Dakota State, another game that they could have lost. I'm going to take K-State minus the 3.5 here. And my final pick. I tried very hard to find a different game. Very hard. But when you can't do it, you can't do it. I wrote down Iowa 3 different times and crossed them out. Just couldn't. I don't trust that offense. So if I were looking at this game from outside the market, I would say LSU is coming off of a bye, that their opponent is playing their 7th straight game. You're going to give me the home team and points when that home field is the best in college football when it's right, and I think it's going to be right tomorrow night. Neither one of these teams has what you would call a really good win. I'm not playing distributed property with South Carolina. 2 really good quarterbacks, 2 accomplished coaches, 1 key injury. If Harris is limited at all, that's their leading receiver by a lot. Look, if this thing goes the other way, I'll feel stupid, but give me the home LSU Tigers tomorrow night plus the 3. Would have liked to have gotten 3.5 there, but 3 against Ole Miss. I think the Tigers win the game outright. If this were a different week, if it were a different venue, I might feel differently, but I like this spot for LSU. So Arizona State, Washington State, Ohio State, Kansas State, and Louisiana State University.
Yes, indeed. Okay, taking home team prime time at LSU. K-State and Colorado. Prime and climbing? And climbing, huh? I confuse those guys all the time. Stylistically, personally, the whole thing,
I got the coaching edge now.
Oregon, has Colorado improved some of their protection for Shedeur, though? I mean, that was impressive what they went down and did to Central Florida on the road there after a field storm fade. So Oregon and Ohio State, both of these teams have very easy paths to the college football playoff. This is the only game where, outside of this, all of Oregon's going to be favored in the other 11. Ohio State will be favored in the other 11. So they have easy paths. They can afford a loss here. Might even have a rematch in the Big Ten championship game. But both of their new quarterbacks they're not quite hitting on all cylinders just yet.
Turnovers.
So, it's not just turnovers, but it's yards per attempt. It's just not, it's not just lighting it up. It's not this freewheeling Oregon, a high-powered offense, or Ohio State with all the weapons that they have. So just seeing a little bit of a learning curve with the new quarterbacks and learning their supporting cast. I said Washington State and Oregon State both, got kicked to the curb, but they're playing with a little pride this year. Both teams are better than expected. And speaking of better than expected, Arizona State, they still have some limitations at the school. Recruiting visits, scholarships, the whole bit since the Herm Edwards deal with the COVID violations. So, yes, the NCAA still has a little bit of power. But Arizona State and Cam Rising, Charlie, you can discount it, but damn it, is there a guy in or out of the lineup that means as much as we're all beyond past the Cam Rising game time decision fatigue? But I don't know. But if you tell me he's not playing, I'm on the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I'd rather he didn't play.
Yes. I mean, it is. I just can't bet their games right now. Even if I see him in full pads, warming up in pregame. We've learned that can be misleading. So, all right, Charlie, let's keep it up. Here's Paul Stone talking about one of the local products. That's right. Former Zachary quarterback Eli Holstein, the Texas A&M commitment turned Alabama signee, redshirted in Tuscaloosa, now in Pitt. They are undefeated, straight up, in against the spread. Cal trying to get up off the mat after that tough loss, losing a 25-point lead in the second half against Miami. Now they travel to Pitt. Here's Paul Stone of Paul Stone Sports. Jordan, if we don't have it, we don't have it queued up. We'll tell you about our friends at Legacy Title. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings. 296-0060. Full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Fast, friendly services, which you get every time you call 296-0060. Buying, building, refinancing, nobody's shoes but you. To Chad Reynolds and Legacy Title. Our great staff, Ashley Donald, Mariana Haynes, Adrian Galata, and Michael Platt. Chad Reynolds and Legacy Title 296-0060. My picks, and we'll have that Paul Stone clip for you as well, breaking down Pitt and Cal. We return Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments from Rufino's at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Since coach for over 40 years and a coach that took over an interim in season, won a couple of games by as 21-point dogs outright to rip the interim tag off and give him the permanent job, and that is over at Georgia Tech. So, and then this might be the end for Mac Brown in his second stint. They have not covered to this point, and they have really, really struggled. They got 70 dropped on them by James Madison. They lost a 20-point lead in the second half against Duke. And it just continues to struggle. Georgia Tech, I love Haynes King, dual threat, usually code for a runner, can't throw. He can do both, man. Tough kid out of Texas, and he does a little bit of both. Two coaches, two programs, two teams going in opposite directions. Laying a 4 on the road, they're looking forward to Midnight Madness in Chapel Hill. Take Georgia Tech -4. Notre Dame and Stanford. So Notre Dame laying 23. That's just too many, period, for this team to be laying. So what have they done to try and show that they can lay more than 3 touchdowns against anybody? Stanford's a little bit better than we thought. Now, they got Charlie bruised up last week, right, when he had a little confidence in him. They lost handily at home. 23. Usually it's the Notre Dame numbers inflated. This one certainly is. Stanford, the tree, plus 23 on the road in South Bend. Field rush fade. What the hell was that in Nashville? So, Nashville, one thing about the Vandy fan base, I didn't know they had one, but they handled carrying that goalpost in orderly fashion. They're very efficient. They went 3.5 miles. They went through traffic, past the cops, not a scratch in a car. Nobody was dinged up. Is incident free. Hire them down when next time we get rioting in the country. Get the Vandy fan base to handle things. Man, they were on top of it, but they're still partying. Okay, they got the damn box score in the practice field as they practice in the construction site in Nashville. There are field rush fades in their nest. I know it concerns me laying double digits with Kentucky in his Stoops this year, last year, any year that he's there. But I got to stick with my system. We're gonna fade the field rush. Kentucky -12.5, and it's trickling down a little bit. Boy, who lost more than Washington? And they had a nice victory against Michigan. Was it really revenge for the national championship game? It's a whole different team, both teams, so not really. But Washington's better than we thought. They had over 200 yards in that, more than Rutgers on that Friday night game that they lost. Man, this Fish guy is good, and he wasn't able to pull the quarterback and the receiver from Arizona, the former high school teammates. This was supposed to be an uphill battle. This team, it's time to give them a little respect. Washington plus the 3 now. It's available at the Queen and DraftKings. And then you talk about, Ole Miss. They responded, They got embarrassed. They didn't do well, and they responded. Well, it wasn't the only game in the SEC last week. There was a big upset and a double-digit dog. Fayetteville, Arkansas, Tennessee. Not only did they lose, but they lost a double-digit lead in the process, which they were lucky to have in the first place. So Arkansas wins, and it should have been worse than what it was. And now they play Florida. Are they up for Florida still? Well, they lost last year. They lost 17 of the last 19 seasons. They play every year. This was one of that we're looking ahead a little bit. And now the young quarterback comes back at home where he's more comfortable. The Rocky Top, yes, Mertz is playing better in Florida, but this is going to be men and boys, and there's a lot of revenge built up as well. Tennessee -14 also. Kenny White yesterday picked Iowa -2.5, Oregon +3.5, and Fresno State +3.5. Paul Stone, his picks are available at the Sports Bettor's Paradise YouTube channel. Matt Humans yesterday picked Oklahoma, LSU, UCLA, Oregon, USC, and Hawaii. Wes Reynolds on Wednesday picked Hawaii, Southern Miss, and West Virginia.
How big a win was Washington's win against Michigan last week?
Yeah, I just said I don't think it's your typical revenge from a national championship game because, I mean, Washington had one returning starter of their 22 from last year. I mean, Michigan lost the half the coaching staff and the most players to the draft ever. So, no, these are two completely teams. So, it's a little, not your typical revenge spot there.
Yeah, that's what I thought, too. And it's not as big of a letdown. I looked at that game for a long time, and, I would think if Washington coming off, Rutgers, they lose that game on a Friday night. They go back across the country. They win an emotional game. I thought about taking Iowa, and I said no. Washington with Will Rogers, again, this is a quarterback that's thrown for over 15,000 yards in his college career. I'm with you on Washington. You convinced me.
Hey, boy, you got picks this week? You, huh?
I do.
You do?
I actually won last week.
You bring some winners to the table this week?
3-2 last week, Jimmy. Finally. I finally had a winning week. Progress.
Well, you kicked our ass last year, but it's a different year. Come on, don't act like a runt now.
Oh, boy. Don't say that. Mincy's not here. Come on.
Mincy failed. Look, what's behind me? What's behind me, Max?
It's
you describe it. You're better.
Right between you and Charlie.
Hold the
right
mail
here.
on the wall here at Rufino's, huh? Mincy, look, Allison Seth right next to him. Reserve the space. He couldn't make it.
Sorry, Mince.
Maybe
old? Next time. I've never met him, actually. Still haven't.
Max, when you're 40 years old, do you think you'll be able to rent a car?
I already have before, I think.
Mincy still can't rent a
driver's license and a credit card.
Turo, it's an app. You can they can leave it right there for you at the airport as well. It's that's something that's available as well. How about where we were yesterday at Jolie Pearl and Town Square Pizza, live after 5, and you've got live music on the lawn as well. A little double dose of live music in this great weather, man. How about the weather that we're having here in the capital city? So, hey, you staying in town for LSU Ole Miss, staying downtown, Jolie Pearl and Town Square Pizza are within walking distance of all the major hotels. I mean, what, a 1 or 2 minute walk from Indigo, from the Hilton, and from the Watermark right there. So all the major hotels. Go check it out. It's live after 5. And you got weekend brunch. Weekend brunch this Saturday and Sunday served at Jolie Pearl as well. And it's never too early to schedule your holiday parties. It's not just the regular menu that we have, but we have a whole new catering menu. It's an array of different items. Pretty much accommodate any size crowd in any size menu. Would you want to have an open bar? You want to just have bar brands? I mean, just draft only. Whatever it is, we can handle it for you. Historic landmark place. Man, it's a great setting for a holiday party, and they always deck it out as well from head to toe with the Christmas decorations. Jolie Pearl, Town Square, both downtown facing Town Square.
Live at Rufino's. Lock of the Week Friday presented by Tex Morris at Edward Jones Investments on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
The P Airport store and the Thibodeau store, helping you make those repairs around your house, those improvements around your house. You say, well, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. Hey, that's me. I'm pretty much incompetent when it comes to this stuff. And even I was able to take some advice from the folks down at the Thibodeau store to make some minor repairs at my home. So do what we did and ask them. You'll be able to save some money by doing some of these things yourself. It's so much better than a YouTube video when you can say, hey, I want to put in a light here. Hey, we want to lay a little piece of concrete on our property, or we want to do some painting. Whatever it is, let the folks at the Thibodeau store help you out. Power tools, hand tools, electrical supplies, plumbing supplies. You need lumber delivered. They can do that out of the Pierre store location. Go to ThibodeauStore.com for all your orders and have things delivered, or you can arrange to pick them up. They'll help you load your vehicle with any of the bulky items. Plus, down at the Thibodeau store, large selection of grills, Big Green Egg cookers, crawfish and jumbo iPods, custom-made cypress furniture, and a ton of fishing gear if you're headed down to the coast. 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux is the Thibodeau store, and online, ThibodeauStore.com.
It's Lock of the Week Friday, presented by Tex Morris of Edward Jones Investments. Now, back to Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, Max, you're up.
Yeah, 3-2 last week, 14-16 for the season. Not good enough. We need a big week. Maybe it'll happen this week. We'll start off with San Jose State +1 at Colorado State. Ken Niumatalolo has done a very good job in his first year there at San Jose State. They're 4-1 and 4-1 against the spread. They've done a good job. Their only loss came at Wazoo by 2. I think that was an overtime game. So they've played some good games. Meanwhile, Colorado State, they've seen some real regression from their quarterback, Braden Fowler-Nicolosi. He has been among the bottom 20 quarterbacks in the country this year, which is a bit surprising. They've had Torrey Horton, their star wide receiver, in and out of the lineup. He's back, but this is a team that beat UTEP and Northern Colorado. Not a very impressive, so I'll take the point on the road with the Spartans. Air Force +6.5 in New Mexico. Air Force has been really, really bad this year. They lost badly last week to Navy. New Mexico coming off a bye week. They beat their rival New Mexico State, but Air Force, we know, triple option team. 134 teams in Division I right now. New Mexico is 134th in yards per rush. That's what the stat you look at, Max. Jimmy. So worst yards per rush defense against a triple option team. No, even coming off a bye week, I think that's a problem. So I'll take the Air Force. 1-4, maybe a quitting type of team normally, but it's the military, so they're not going to quit on this team. I'll take the Falcons +6.5. Boise State, Hawaii, over 59.5. This is the late game. Ashton Jeanty, I've got him to win the Heisman. I think I'm going to cash out at some point, like you said, Jimmy. But
you better do it before Saturday.
This is a team he's going to run up the score on again. I've watched more of Hawaii than pretty much anyone. I've got the win total over. Their defense isn't great at tackling, which is a problem against Jeanty, who's Boise State's offense, 62, 45, 56. So they're going to get close to this total by themselves probably. But Hawaii offensively, actually not bad. They struggled a little bit in the red zone. They should have won the game last week, actually, against San Diego State. So both these teams are going to put up points. Boise State's defense is not good. They've got a new defensive coordinator since they had to promote the head coach. And their defense has not been good. They allowed 30 last week to Utah State. So I think Hawaii is going to get theirs as well. I'll take over 59.5. Way too low in my opinion. And finally, I had to scrap Iowa State. I liked them at 3 against West Virginia, but they're up to 3.5. So I'm going to go double barrel here with Vanderbilt and the over. Vanderbilt I don't like as much. I'm going against you here, Jimmy, I know. This is a field rush fade situation, but Vanderbilt actually, according to, there's a stat, you'll love this, Jimmy, post-game win expectancy. It's something that looks at the box score and basically says, if you play this.
We go to Nashville, they're on Broadway, if they're going to have a good time after? I mean, what are we talking about here?
Pretty much, it just looks at the box score and says, if you play this game over again, how many times does a certain team win? Well, Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State 36-32, but their post-game win expectancy was 59%. They were supposed to win that game. They were also supposed to beat Missouri. They had plenty of chances in that one. So I like Vanderbilt. I like the over 44.5.
All right, San Jose State, Air Force, over, Boise, Hawaii, Vandy, and the over. It's not what Jeanty does. It's what the other guys do on the Power 5 teams like yours. He has a good game against Oklahoma. He's going to rise up and be a much shorter price.
Tomorrow, Eagle 98.1 game day at 1:30. Football Friday from the Queen on Sunday at 10 a.m. And we're at Walk-Ons in Bruley on Monday. Have a good week. Everybody stay tuned for Hunt Palmer.